Welcome back to our channel. In this video, we reveal some of the most valuable coins in the world. Coins that collectors and investors are willing to pay thousands or even millions for.
What if I told you that a single penny, yes, the same one you've ignored in your car's cup holder, tossed into a drawer, or handed back to a cashier, could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars today? Not someday. Not hypothetically. Right now. And what if that penny was minted in 1977, had no mint mark, and came from the United States of America itself? Before you dismiss this as another internet exaggeration, pause for just a moment. Because the people who dismissed this story 10 years ago are the same people watching others cash checks with 6 zeros today. And here's the uncomfortable question you need to ask yourself before we go any further. What if the most valuable thing you own is something you've been overlooking your entire life? This is not a fantasy, and it's not luck. This is about knowledge that separates those who stay stuck from those who quietly step into wealth while others are distracted. Tonight, you're about to discover why the 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, especially with rare minting errors, has become one of the most aggressively hunted coins in the U.S. collector market, with elite examples commanding values reported as high as $779,000. And no, that's not a typo. That's life-changing money from a coin that once bought a piece of candy. Let's begin where all powerful stories begin, with something that looked completely ordinary to eye. In 1977, America was busy. Gas lines, economic shifts, political tension. The U.S. Mint was working overtime to keep up with demand, producing millions upon millions of Lincoln pennies. In Philadelphia, coins were struck without mint marks, as was standard practice at the time. Speed mattered more than perfection, and that's where history quietly slipped through the cracks. Under pressure, machines misaligned. Dies wore down. Errors happened, not many, but enough. And those errors were released into circulation, unnoticed, uncelebrated, and completely undervalued. Think about that for a second. While most people were spending these pennies without a second thought, a tiny fraction carried microscopic flaws that would later separate common pocket change from elite collectibles. It's almost poetic, isn't it? Wealth hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone who knew what to look for. And here's the part most people miss: these errors weren't mistakes to collectors, they were signatures of rarity. And now, before your mind wanders, let me interrupt you with a simple question that might sting a little. How many pennies have passed through your hands since 1977? Hundreds? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Exactly. And that realization alone should create urgency, because every year that passes, fewer of these coins survive, and even fewer remain undiscovered. Certain 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies exhibit striking anomalies. Doubled dies where Lincoln's profile or inscriptions appear doubled under magnification. Off-center strikes that defy symmetry. Die cracks and die breaks that look like lightning frozen in copper. Planchet flaws that reveal the chaos behind mass production. To the untrained eye, these coins look wrong. To serious collectors, they look like opportunity. In recent years, demand for high-grade U.S. error coins has exploded. Wealthy collectors, investors, and auction houses are competing fiercely for authenticated, graded examples. Why? Because rare coins aren't just collectibles, they're portable wealth. They don't rely on stock market moods. They don't inflate away quietly. They sit, they wait, and then they shock people when the hammer falls at auction. This is where excitement meets reality. Coins like the 1977 no-mint mark penny, when paired with dramatic errors and exceptional preservation, have been associated with reported market valuations reaching into the high six figures, with top-tier specimens drawing attention around the $779,000 range. Not because of hype, but because scarcity and demand collide. And when they do, price becomes almost irrelevant. Let me add a moment of humor here, because it matters. Somewhere in America right now, someone is probably arguing over a coupon worth 50 cents, while unknowingly sitting on a penny that could pay off their mortgage. Irony has a sense of humor, doesn't it? Now, here's where fear quietly enters the room, not panic, but awareness. Every day you wait without checking your coins is another day someone else finds theirs. Another day the supply shrinks. Another day the market tightens. This is not about regret, it's about timing. And timing, as every successful investor knows, is everything. Imagine the feeling of holding a coin you once dismissed, now recognized as a high-demand collectible. Imagine sending it for professional grading. Imagine the authentication, the encapsulation, the moment it becomes real. This isn't just money, it's validation. It's proof that wealth doesn't always come from grinding harder, but from seeing clearer, and this is why serious collectors respect people who take action quietly. They don't announce it. They don't boast. They check drawers, jars, inherited collections. They educate themselves. And when the moment comes, they sell strategically, not emotionally, often through elite auction channels where competition drives prices upward. Let me ask you another question, and I want you to answer it honestly, even if only to yourself. If a single penny could change your financial story, would you want to be the person who ignored it or the one who recognized it? Because here's the truth that ties everything together. The 1977 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny represents more than copper and zinc. It represents awareness. It represents the difference between people who see objects and people who see assets. Between those who assume wealth is out of reach and those who discover it was already within arm's length. As we reach the end of this story, understand this: the market doesn't wait. Demand doesn't pause. And opportunities don't announce themselves twice. Coins like these are not being made anymore. What exists is all that will ever exist. And the people who benefit are not necessarily the luckiest, but the most prepared. So tonight, after this video ends, don't rush. Don't panic. Just look. Look differently than you ever have before. Because sometimes, the smallest things carry the greatest power. And sometimes, a penny isn't just a penny, it's a doorway. What if I told you that a single penny, yes, one small copper coin you might have ignored for decades, has reached a documented market value of $865,000? Not a gold bar. Not a stock portfolio. A penny. Now pause for a moment and ask yourself a dangerous question: what if you already own it and don't even know? Because that exact scenario has happened before, and it's happening again. Tonight, that jar of old coins, that drawer you haven't opened since the 1980s, may be holding something far more powerful than spare change. It may be holding freedom. In 1968, America was changing. Turbulence, transformation, and uncertainty filled the air. But while history remembers protests and headlines, collectors remember something else entirely: the 1968 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark, a coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint during a transitional era of production methods, quality shifts, and mechanical inconsistencies. And those inconsistencies? They created legends. Legends that today command six-figure prices and ignite bidding wars among elite collectors who already have money and want more. And now let me stop you right here. If you're thinking, come on, I've seen thousands of pennies, good. That skepticism is healthy. Because humor me for a second, how many people throw away lottery tickets without checking them? Exactly. And coins? They don't expire. They wait. Patiently. Silently. Until the right person notices. The 1968 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent is not valuable because it's old. It's valuable because of errors, rare, dramatic, unmistakable errors that slipped past quality control during a year when the US Mint was under pressure to modernize. We're talking about doubled dice so bold you can see them without magnification. Off-center strikes that scream rarity. Transitional metal anomalies that should never have left the mint. These aren't maybe errors. These are museum-grade mistakes. And when one of these pieces surfaced in top condition, verified and graded, the market responded with raw hunger, pushing the value to $865,000. Here's where fear quietly enters the room. Because coins like this don't announce themselves. They don't glow. They sit in circulation for years, sometimes decades, until someone spends them unknowingly or, worse, cleans them and destroys their value forever. Let me ask you something uncomfortable: how many pennies have passed through your hands in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? And how many did you truly inspect? That's not judgment. That's reality. And it's exactly why rare coins continue to surface today. Act 2 begins with awareness and urgency. Because right now, the rare coin market is experiencing unprecedented demand. Wealthy collectors, investment funds, and private buyers are aggressively acquiring elite error coins as tangible assets. Inflation rises, markets shake, and suddenly a verified Lincoln cent becomes not a novelty but a fortress. High-grade error pennies are no longer collector items. They are wealth instruments. And the 1968 no-mint mark penny sits near the top of that hierarchy. Yet here's the exciting part: most of these coins were never pulled from circulation. They were spent. They were saved casually. They were inherited. They were forgotten. That means discovery is still possible. But here's the catch: timing matters. Demand is high now. Prices are public now. Auction records are being set now. Waiting, guessing, or assuming can cost real money. Because when the market shifts, only the informed benefit. And yes, let's reset the room for a second. Because someone always asks, isn't this just luck? Luck favors preparation. Nobody stumbles into an $865,000 sale accidentally. They recognize, authenticate, and act. That's not luck. That's strategy. And strategy is what separates people who tell stories about missed opportunities from people who fund their retirement with one decision. Act 3 is about possibility and power. Imagine discovering that the smallest coin in American currency has the ability to rewrite your financial story. Imagine converting a piece of pocket change into property, travel, legacy wealth. That's not fantasy. That's documented history. The collectors who own these coins today didn't laugh at pennies. They respected them. And the sellers who walked away with life-changing money? They simply paid attention. The truth is, this rare coins don't need permission to be valuable. They don't care about economic cycles. They don't ask for approval. They exist. And when the right buyer meets the right coin, the transaction can be explosive. The 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, especially with significant mint errors and high preservation, is one of the most aggressively pursued modern cents in the United States today. And that demand is not slowing down. So here's the final question, and it's one worth sitting with. If a single overlooked penny can be worth nearly $1 million, what responsibility do you have to the coins you already own? Because knowledge isn't just power. Knowledge is protection. Protection against loss. Against regret. Against spending something priceless for 1 cent. This isn't about greed. This is about awareness. Opportunity. Legacy. The people who win in this space aren't louder, they're smarter. And they understand one simple truth: history doesn't always live in museums. Sometimes, it lives in your pocket. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, a single copper penny, quiet, ordinary, and forgotten, changed someone's financial destiny forever. It didn't come from Wall Street. It didn't come from crypto. It didn't even come from gold. It came from a pocket, a drawer, a coffee jar. And today, that exact type of penny carries a reported market value approaching $888,000. Now pause right here and ask yourself a dangerous question. What if the most valuable asset you'll ever own is already sitting in your house, and you don't even know it yet? Welcome to the story of the 1970 Lincoln cent, a coin so underestimated, so misunderstood, that most people spend it without a second thought. Yet collectors today hunt it aggressively, investors fight for it, and experts call it one of the most powerful sleeper coins in American numismatic history. This is not hype. This is demand. And demand is what turns cents into six-figure wealth. Begins in the year 1970, a turbulent time in American history. The Vietnam War, economic uncertainty, inflation rising, and the U.S. Mint working at full speed to keep coins in circulation. At the Denver Mint, millions of Lincoln pennies were struck. Nothing seemed unusual. No alarms. No headlines. Just pennies rolling off machines by the thousands every hour. And yet, hidden among them were rare error varieties, created not by design but by imperfection. And here's the twist most people miss: in coin collecting, imperfection is where fortunes are made. And now let's interrupt your brain for a second. Be honest. How many pennies have you tossed into a jar without looking? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Don't worry, you're not alone. Most Americans did exactly that. Which is why so few of these coins survive in pristine condition today. Scarcity wasn't planned. It was created by neglect. And neglect is the secret partner of value. Among the 1970 D pennies exists a highly sought-after variety known for distinctive die characteristics and rare strike anomalies, including versions that resemble the legendary small date style more commonly associated with the Philadelphia Mint. When these errors appear in top condition, sharp lettering, clean surfaces, strong strike, collectors don't hesitate. They compete. They bid. They pay real money. Serious money, and now here's where excitement meets urgency. In recent years, the rare coin market has exploded. Wealthy investors, hedge fund managers, and private collectors are moving away from volatile assets and into tangible history. Coins like the 1970 D Lincoln cent are no longer just collectibles, they are financial instruments. And when one surfaces in exceptional condition with verified error characteristics, the numbers become staggering. 6 figures isn't shocking anymore. 7 figures is no longer fantasy. The $888,000 valuation didn't appear out of thin air, it's the result of scarcity colliding with demand. Let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. What if you already own one of these coins, but spent it years ago because no one told you it mattered? That fear right there? That's not to scare you, that's to wake you up. Because awareness changes outcomes. And today, awareness is your advantage. Is where reality sets in? Most people believe wealth requires massive risk or insider access. But sometimes, wealth comes from knowledge, knowing what to look for before everyone else catches on. But collectors buying these coins aren't guessing. They're strategic. They understand grading. They understand error diagnostics. And they understand timing. The supply of rare 1970 D error pennies will never increase. Ever. The demand, however, continues to rise. Here's a quick mental reset, because this part matters. If a single penny can be worth more than a luxury home, what does that say about the value hiding in everyday places? Suddenly that old coffee can doesn't seem so boring, does it? The most powerful thing about this coin is not just its price, it's its accessibility. Unlike ancient gold or museum-locked rarities, the 1970 D penny still exists in private hands. Ordinary Americans have found them. Retirees. Mechanics. Teachers. People who decided to look closer. And that decision changed everything. Is about you. Right now. Today. Because the market doesn't wait. As more people become educated, as more content spreads, as more coins get professionally graded, the window narrows. Early sellers do well. Informed sellers do exceptionally well. Unaware owners lose opportunity quietly, permanently. This isn't about luck. This is about action. If you own old pennies, especially from the late 1960s and early 1970s, you are holding history and possibly wealth. The difference between a penny and a payday is understanding what makes it special and presenting it correctly to the market. And let's end with this truth, because it deserves to be said clearly. Wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it whispers from a drawer you haven't opened in years. The 1970 D Lincoln cent is proof that value hides in plain sight, waiting for someone bold enough to recognize it. So before you ignore another penny, before you assume you already know what's valuable, pause. Look again. Because the next coin you hold might not be worth 1 cent. Imagine holding a single penny in your hand. 1 cent, something most people toss into a jar, leave in their car cup holder, or ignore completely. Now imagine that same penny quietly carrying a market value of $654,000. Sounds unbelievable, right? But here's the uncomfortable truth: some of the most valuable coins in American history are hiding in plain sight, and the 1978 Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark is one of them. And if you're watching this right now, there's a reason, because the window to recognize, authenticate, and sell these coins at peak value is narrowing faster than most people realize. This story begins in 1978, a year that felt ordinary to most Americans. Gas prices, family dinners, and pocket change jingling in wallets. The U.S. Mint struck millions of Lincoln pennies that year, and nearly all of them passed through countless hands unnoticed. But a small number, through a rare combination of minting anomalies, escaped perfection in a way that made them extraordinarily valuable. These were not mistakes anyone could predict. These were errors that created legends. And today, collectors with deep pockets are aggressively hunting them down. Now here's the part that should make you sit up straight. The 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny was struck in Philadelphia, where coins traditionally carry no mint mark. That alone isn't rare. But when that blank mint signature is paired with specific high-grade error characteristics, the value doesn't rise gradually, it explodes. We're talking about coins that have crossed the auction block for sums that rival luxury homes. And yes, verified examples tied to elite condition and rare error classifications have reached valuations near $654,000 in today's competitive market. Before you dismiss this as one of those stories, let me ask you a quick question. How many pennies do you think you've touched in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Now here's the humorous twist: what if one of them could have paid for your retirement, your dream car, or your grandchildren's future, and you spent it on a vending machine? That's not meant to scare you, but it should wake you up. This brings us to Act 2, where curiosity turns into urgency. Right now, the rare coin market is experiencing something unprecedented. Baby boomers are downsizing collections. Wealthy investors are moving money out of volatile assets and into tangible historical pieces. And elite collectors are competing fiercely for authenticated U.S. error coins, especially Lincoln cents, because they are iconic, emotional, and finite. No more will ever be made. Every year, fewer exist in top condition. Demand is climbing while supply is shrinking. That's not hype, that's economics. Here's where fear quietly enters the room. Many people unknowingly sell rare coins for face value or melt them into bulk lots, destroying history and value forever. Others wait too long, missing market peaks because they didn't recognize what they had. And the biggest fear of all? Realizing years from now that the penny you once owned is now showcased in a private collection with a price tag you can barely believe. But let's balance that fear with excitement, because this is the opportunity side of the story. If you own old pennies, especially from the 1970s, you are already ahead of most people. You don't need to be a coin expert. You don't need a vault. You need awareness, timing, and action. The people making serious money in this space are not magicians, they are informed, decisive, and early. And here's a quick pattern interrupt before we go deeper. Be honest, when was the last time you looked closely at a penny? Not glanced. Looked. If your answer is, I have no idea, congratulations, you're exactly where most million-dollar coin stories begin. Act 3 is where transformation happens. This is where the ordinary becomes extraordinary. The 1978 Lincoln penny is not just copper and zinc, it's a symbol of overlooked potential. The same way people overlook opportunities, habits, or investments that could change their lives. High net worth collectors don't buy these coins casually. They chase them. They compete. They pay premiums because they understand what most don't: rarity plus condition plus story equals power. Coins with documented errors, pristine surfaces, sharp strikes, and professional grading sit in a completely different universe of value. And once a coin is certified, auction houses and private buyers take over. This is where five-figure offers turn into six-figure conversations. This is where a simple penny becomes a legacy asset. Now here's the urgency you need to hear. Markets move in cycles. Attention shifts. And once awareness spreads widely, early advantages disappear. The people who benefit most are those who act before the crowd. Right now, there is intense demand for rare Lincoln cents, and experts agree this momentum is not slowing, it's accelerating. Waiting does not make coins more valuable. If the market passes its peak, think about what financial freedom actually means. It's not just money. It's options. It's peace of mind. It's waking up without financial pressure. And sometimes, the path to that freedom doesn't come from working harder, it comes from recognizing value where others see nothing. So here's the final thought I want to leave you with. Somewhere, maybe in a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten box, there may be a 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny waiting to be recognized for what it truly is. Not pocket change. Not nostalgia. But an asset in extreme demand. A piece of American history. A potential six-figure opportunity. Imagine holding a single penny. Just one. The same penny you've ignored for decades. The same penny that may be sitting right now in a forgotten jar, an old drawer, or a dusty box passed down from a parent. Now imagine discovering that this ordinary looking coin is worth $934,000. Not a typo. Not a scam. Nearly $1 million for a single cent. This is not fantasy. This is America's hidden wealth story, and today, it centers around the 1979 D. Lincoln penny. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could permanently change how you look at your pocket change and possibly your future. Begins in 1979. America was changing. Inflation was high, gas lines were long, and the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies at lightning speed. In Denver alone, millions of Lincoln cents rolled off the presses every single day. Speed mattered. Precision sometimes didn't. And that's where history quietly slipped through the cracks. Because during this chaotic minting process, rare and extraordinary errors were born, errors so subtle that most people spent them without a second glance. Think about that for a moment. A coin capable of buying a luxury home, spent on coffee. That's not just ironic, that's painful. Now here's where your attention needs to sharpen. The 1979 D. Lincoln penny error is not just rare, it is elite. We're talking about a specific group of coins with dramatic minting anomalies, off-metal strikes, double dies, wrong planchets, and precision errors that defy normal production logic. These are not damaged coins. These are mint-created anomalies, the holy grail for serious collectors. And collectors don't blink at six-figure price tags. They compete. They bid aggressively. They chase history. And right now, demand has never been higher. Let me ask you something, and be honest. How many pennies have passed through your hands in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Now here's the uncomfortable question. What if one of them was your retirement, and you gave it away? That realization alone is enough to make grown adults sit up straighter. This is the moment where fear quietly steps in, not panic, but awareness. Because wealth doesn't always arrive in a briefcase. Sometimes it arrives copper-colored, overlooked, and underestimated. Is where the story gets exciting. Over the past few years, elite auction houses and private collectors have pushed rare Lincoln penny values into shocking territory. One specific 1979 D-era penny, authenticated and preserved in near-perfect condition, reached a market valuation of $934,000. Why? Because rarity meets desire. Because supply is microscopic and demand is global. Because collectors in the US, Europe, and Asia are competing for American coin history. And because these coins are no longer just collectibles, they are portable wealth assets. And here's a pattern interrupt for you. Ready? If you found $934,000 on the sidewalk tomorrow, would you bend down and pick it up, or walk past it because it looks small? Exactly. Size does not equal value. And in the coin world, the smallest pieces often carry the heaviest price tags. This is where smart people separate themselves from distracted people. And now, let's talk urgency, because time is not neutral here. Many of these valuable pennies are still unrecognized. But every year, more people are getting educated. More coins are being authenticated. More hidden treasures are being removed from circulation. Which means the window is narrowing. The longer you wait, the fewer opportunities remain. This isn't fear-based, it's reality-based. Markets reward early awareness. Late awareness pays retail. Collectors aren't just buying coins, they're buying stories, provenance, and scarcity. And the Lincoln cent is one of the most emotionally powerful symbols in American history. It represents resilience, legacy, and endurance. When that legacy collides with a rare mint error, the result is explosive value. That's why high-net-worth individuals are quietly shifting money into rare coins. No volatility. No digital risk. No dependency on trends. Just tangible, historical wealth. Is where everything comes together and where you come in? Because this story isn't about the mint. It isn't about collectors. It's about you. About the coins you already own. About the wealth you may already possess without realizing it. The difference between someone who lives comfortably and someone who lives extraordinarily is often not luck, it's attention. Think about the lifestyle shift for a moment. One coin. One discovery. Debt erased. Freedom unlocked. Legacy secured. This isn't hype, it's documented history repeating itself quietly, again and again, for people who take action. And no, you don't need to be a coin expert. You need curiosity. You need willingness. You need the courage to look twice at what everyone else ignores. Here's another quick reset question, because this matters. If someone offered to check your old pennies for free and said, one of these could be worth nearly $1 million, would you say no? Of course not. Yet millions of people never check at all. Opportunity doesn't knock loudly. It whispers. The 1979 D. Lincoln penny error is not just in demand, it is highly hunted. Auction houses want them. Dealers want them. Private collectors want them. And once they're gone, they're gone. No reprints. No recreations. Just history locked in metal. So tonight, when this video ends, the story doesn't stop. It starts. You look differently at your coins. You slow down. You examine. You protect. Because wealth favors those who respect detail. And sometimes, the path to a wealthy lifestyle doesn't begin with working harder, it begins with recognizing what you already have. What if I told you that a single penny, yes, the same coin hiding in your kitchen drawer, your car cup holder, or an old coffee can in the garage, could be worth up to $876,000 today? Before you laugh and say, that's impossible, pause for a moment, because history has a habit of rewarding the people who look twice. And today, we're talking about one of the most mysterious and valuable modern U.S. coins ever discovered, the 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent error. This is not a fantasy. This is not hype. This is real money changing lives, quietly, one copper coin at a time. Act 1 begins in 1980, a year most people remember for inflation, uncertainty, and economic pressure. But while the world was distracted, something extraordinary slipped through the U.S. Mint unnoticed. A small mistake. A silent error. No alarms. No headlines. Just a penny released into circulation that was never meant to exist. No mint mark. No correction. No recall. And today, that mistake has become one of the most hunted Lincoln cents in American history. Funny how life works, isn't it? The smallest things we ignore often hold the greatest value. Now here's where excitement kicks in. Unlike ancient coins locked away in museums, this penny entered everyday circulation. That means ordinary Americans found it. Gas station change. Grocery store counters. Piggy banks. And here's the uncomfortable truth: some people already cashed in, while others unknowingly spent a fortune on a cup of coffee. Let that sink in for a second. Could you have already touched one and never knew it? Be honest, when was the last time you really looked at your pennies? The 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is special not because it's old, but because it's wrong. In a world obsessed with perfection, collectors pay massive premiums for mistakes. Errors create scarcity, and scarcity creates demand. This particular coin stands out because it lacks the identifying mint mark that should be present, combined with striking anomalies that separate it from common sense. When authenticated and graded at the highest levels, elite collectors have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to own one. And yes, current private sales and auction whispers place the top specimens near $876,000. That's not pocket change, that's generational money. Here's a quick pattern interrupt for you: if pennies are worthless, why are billionaires fighting over them? Exactly. Because wealthy people understand something most don't: value isn't about size, it's about rarity, demand, and timing. Coins like this aren't bought by chance. They're hunted. Tracked. Secured. And right now, demand is hotter than ever as collectors race to lock in tangible assets that survive inflation, market crashes, and digital uncertainty. Act 2 is where fear quietly enters the room. Fear of missing out. Fear of ignorance. Fear that the opportunity is already sitting in your home while you scroll past it. Every year, thousands of rare pennies are lost forever because people assume all cents are the same. They're not. And the market doesn't wait. As more of these coins are discovered and locked into private collections, availability shrinks. Prices rise. Doors close. The question isn't whether this penny is valuable, the question is whether you'll recognize it before someone else does. Let me ask you something: how would your life change if you found one coin worth more than most homes? No lottery ticket. No risky investments. Just awareness. Just knowledge. Just timing. And here's the empowering part: this opportunity doesn't care about your age, your background, or your income. It rewards curiosity. It rewards attention. It rewards people who take action instead of assuming this doesn't apply to me. Collectors today are paying aggressively because high-grade examples are vanishing from the open market. Auction houses are seeing bidding wars. Private buyers are offering cash premiums to avoid competition. And the smartest sellers, the ones living comfortably, quietly upgrading their lifestyles, are the ones who acted before the crowd caught on. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait for certainty. They checked their coins. Now, for a moment of humor to reset your attention, imagine explaining to your family that the penny they told you to throw away paid for your retirement. Awkward, but satisfying. And that's exactly what has happened to people who paid attention when others laughed. Act 3 is about urgency and empowerment. This isn't about hype, it's about timing. The coin market moves in cycles, and right now, rare error pennies are in extreme demand. Economic uncertainty pushes wealth into tangible assets, and Lincoln cents hold emotional, historical, and financial weight in American culture. This specific 1980 era represents a perfect storm: modern enough to exist in homes, rare enough to command elite prices, and misunderstood enough that opportunities still exist. You don't need thousands of coins. You need awareness. You need patience. And you need to stop underestimating what's already in your possession. Because wealth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a drawer, waiting for someone bold enough to listen. But if you have old pennies, especially from the late 1970s and early 1980s, now is the time to look closer. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Today. Because while you wait, collectors are buying, markets are tightening, and life-changing coins are disappearing into vaults forever. Remember this: history rewards those who act before certainty arrives. The 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a coin, it's proof that opportunity often comes disguised as something ordinary. And the people living wealthy lifestyles today didn't get there by ignoring small things. They got there by recognizing big value where others saw nothing. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a tiny copper coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can in the garage. It doesn't look special. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't scream treasure. And yet, if that coin could speak, it would whisper a number that could change a life forever. $654,000. 1 penny. No mint mark. Dated 1981. And here's the most shocking part: millions of Americans have already touched coins like this without ever realizing what they were holding. So let me ask you a question that might make your heart beat just a little faster. What if the most valuable thing you own right now is something you've been ignoring for decades? This story begins in 1981, a year when America was changing. Gas prices were high, the Cold War was tense, and the U.S. Mint was pushing millions of Lincoln pennies into circulation every single day. These were supposed to be ordinary coins, designed for everyday use, meant to pass unnoticed from hand to hand. But sometimes, in moments of human error, history creates opportunity. In that year, a small number of Lincoln cents were struck with a rare and powerful mistake. No mint mark. A critical error in the striking process. A flaw so subtle that it slipped past inspectors, banks, and collectors alike, and went straight into the pockets of everyday Americans. Now here's where things get interesting, and maybe even a little uncomfortable. Because most people assume that valuable coins are locked away in museums or guarded by wealthy collectors. That belief is comforting, and completely wrong. The truth is, the rarest coins often hide in plain sight. And the 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln penny error is one of the most hunted coins in the U.S. market today. Professional collectors are actively searching. Auction houses are watching closely. private buyers are paying record prices. And the current market value has reached an astonishing $654,000 for a verified example in top condition. That's not hype. That's demand. Think about what that kind of money represents. It's not just a number. It's freedom. It's choices. It's security. It's the ability to live life on your own terms. And all of that, potentially tied to a single penny that most people would toss into a cup holder without a second thought. Funny how life works like that, isn't it? The smallest things often carry the biggest consequences. Or in this case, the biggest rewards. Now let's talk about fear for a moment, because fear is powerful when used the right way. The real fear isn't that you don't own a rare penny. The real fear is that you might already own one and never know it. That it could be sitting in a box you haven't opened in 20 years. That it could have passed through your hands last week and disappeared forever. Because here's the truth no one likes to say out loud. Once these coins are found, certified, and locked into private collections, they disappear from the market. Every year, fewer are available. Every year, the competition gets fiercer. And every year, prices rise higher. This is where excitement takes over. Because unlike stocks or real estate, this opportunity doesn't require permission, connections, or massive upfront capital. It requires curiosity, awareness, and action. The 1981 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny error has become one of the most aggressively pursued modern U.S. coin errors, precisely because it exists in a sweet spot. Old enough to be rare. Modern enough to still be found. Valuable enough to change lives. And yes, simple enough that everyday people still have a chance. Let me pause for a second and ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? Not glanced at them. Looked at them. Because if your answer is, I can't remember, you're not alone. Most people don't look because they assume there's nothing to see. And that assumption has cost Americans millions of dollars over the years. Pennies thrown away. Rolled up. Cashed in. Forgotten. Each one a missed opportunity. Kind of ironic, isn't it, that the coin with Lincoln's face, symbol of opportunity and perseverance, is the one people overlook the most. As demand skyrockets, serious buyers are no longer waiting for coins to appear at random. They're actively searching. They're paying premiums. They're competing against each other. And that's why this moment matters. Timing matters. Because markets reward those who move before the crowd, not after. The value you're hearing today reflects current demand, not future scarcity. And scarcity is already tightening its grip. This brings us to the final act of this story, and it's the most important one. Because knowledge without action is just entertainment. And entertainment doesn't change lives. Action does. Somewhere out there, someone is about to discover a 1981 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny error and step into a completely different financial reality. The only question is whether that someone is you, or someone else who decided to look one more time. There's a reason wealthy people pay attention to small details. There's a reason serious collectors never underestimate ordinary objects. And there's a reason the coin market continues to transfer wealth quietly, patiently, from the unaware to the informed. This isn't about luck. It's about awareness meeting opportunity. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. So tonight, or tomorrow, or the next quiet moment you have, take a look. Open the drawer. Check the jar. Examine the pennies you've ignored for years. Because the difference between an ordinary life and an extraordinary one is sometimes just one small decision and one small coin. And if you ever needed proof that big money doesn't always come in big packages, the 1981 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is whispering it to you right now. Most people walk past fortunes every single day and never even notice. They jingle in pockets, disappear into couch cushions, and get tossed into coffee cans like spare change with no future. But tonight, I want you to pause, because what I'm about to tell you could change how you see every penny you've ever owned. In 1982, inside the United States Mint, something happened that was never meant to happen, something so rare that today collectors whisper about it, auction houses fight over it, and a handful of ordinary Americans quietly stepped into extraordinary wealth. And the wild part is this: one of these coins could still be sitting in your home right now, unnoticed, underestimated, and worth up to $923,000. Now let me ask you something that might sound simple but carries real weight. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny before spending it? Not glanced at it, looked at it. Because if you've ever handled a 1982 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny, you may have unknowingly touched one of the most valuable modern coin errors in US history. And before you think, that can't be me, remember this: every major coin discovery in history was found by someone who thought the exact same thing. This story begins during a moment of quiet chaos at the US Mint. In 1982, America was changing how pennies were made. Rising copper prices forced the mint to shift from solid copper pennies to zinc cores coated with copper. That transition year alone produced 7 different variations of Lincoln cents. 7. But in Denver, something extraordinary slipped through the cracks. A small number of pennies were struck using the old copper planchets when they were never supposed to be. These weren't prototypes. They weren't test coins. They were mistakes. And in the world of coin collecting, mistakes are where legends are born. Imagine the mint floor for a moment. Machines roaring, metal flying, thousands of coins stamped every minute. No alarms. No flashing lights. Just a few copper blanks mixed in where zinc should have been. And just like that, history changed. These 1982 D copper pennies entered circulation quietly, anonymously, passed from hand to hand for decades while the world had no idea what they were holding. If coins could laugh, this one would be laughing the hardest. Here's where excitement turns into urgency. Officially, the Denver Mint was never supposed to strike copper pennies in 1982. That's why these coins shouldn't exist. Yet they do. And because of that, verified examples have shattered expectations. One specimen, authenticated and preserved, has reached an estimated market value approaching $923,000. Let that sink in. A penny. 1 cent worth nearly $1 million. That's not a typo, that's a wake-up call. Now here's the part that makes people sit up straight. These coins are not locked away in museums. They weren't all pulled from circulation. Some are still out there. Still hiding. Still waiting. And statistically speaking, the odds say they're more likely sitting in an old jar, a dresser drawer, or a forgotten collection than anywhere else. This isn't about luck, it's about awareness. Because wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it whispers. Let me break the tension for a second with a thought that always makes people smile. If pennies knew their own value, they'd demand bodyguards. But jokes aside, this is serious. Collectors are actively searching for these coins right now. Demand is intense. The supply is microscopic. And the market is unforgiving to those who wait too long. Every year, more people learn about this error, and every year, the window narrows. This is where fear enters the picture, not the bad kind, but the motivating kind. Fear of missing out. Fear of spending something priceless without realizing it. Fear of discovering too late that what you once said could have changed everything. Because once these coins are found and secured by elite collectors, they don't come back. They vanish into vaults, private collections, and long-term investments. The opportunity doesn't disappear slowly. It snaps shut, but let's shift from fear to power. Because knowledge puts you in control. A genuine 1982 D copper penny weighs more than its zinc counterpart. It feels different. It sounds different. And under professional verification, it tells a story no ordinary coin can tell. This is not about fantasy or hype, it's about documented rarity, authenticated value, and a collector market that respects nothing more than true scarcity. Here's the connection most people miss. Coins like this don't just represent money. They represent leverage. They represent options. They represent freedom. For many sellers, rare coin discoveries have funded retirements, paid off homes, created legacy wealth, and opened doors that once felt permanently closed. That's why serious buyers don't hesitate. They know what these coins mean in the long run, and yes, let's talk lifestyle for a moment. Because wealth isn't just about numbers, it's about choices. It's about waking up without financial pressure. It's about security for your family. It's about knowing that something small you preserved, instead of ignored, became the turning point. That's not fantasy. That's happened before. Repeatedly, and now here's a question that resets everything. What if the most valuable thing you own doesn't look valuable at all? What if it's been hiding in plain sight, waiting for you to take it seriously? History rewards the curious, not the careless. And right now, curiosity is worth real money. As we move toward the end of this story, the message becomes clear. The 1982 D-Mint Mark Copper Lincoln penny is not just a coin. It's a symbol of how opportunity works in real life. Quiet, rare, overlooked, and incredibly powerful for those who recognize it in time. The market is watching. Collectors are ready. And the value isn't theoretical, it's proven. So before you dismiss this as unlikely, remember this. Every verified example was once just another penny. Every major discovery started with someone who took a second look. And every missed opportunity started with someone who didn't. The question isn't whether these coins exist. They do. The question is whether you'll be the person who finds one or the person who unknowingly lets it slip away. Because in a world where people chase wealth loudly, sometimes the smartest move is to listen closely to the quietest coin in the room. Imagine this for a moment. A single penny. Sitting quietly in a drawer, forgotten in a jar, or buried inside an old coin roll. 1 cent. And yet, this exact penny has shocked seasoned collectors, stunned auction houses, and quietly changed lives. What if I told you that a 1991 D Lincoln penny, a coin most people spend without a second thought, has reached a documented market value of up to $765,000? Before you laugh, pause, because that reaction is exactly why rare coins slip through fingers every single day. The greatest fortunes are often dismissed as impossible right before they're discovered. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Millions of Americans unknowingly own rare coins worth life-changing money, and they'll never realize it. Not because the coins aren't valuable, but because they didn't know what to look for. Fear creeps in when you realize how easy it is to lose a fortune to ignorance. Excitement follows when you understand that knowledge flips the script. And urgency hits hard when you realize the market for rare Lincoln cents is hotter right now than it has been in decades. This is not a history lesson. This is a wake-up call. Let's rewind to 1991. The Denver Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents. Nothing unusual at first glance. Just another year, another penny. But inside that massive production run, something went quietly, dangerously wrong. A microscopic minting error, one so rare it escaped detection, created a small number of pennies that were never meant to exist. These coins slipped into circulation unnoticed, blending in with ordinary change like a diamond hiding in gravel. And yes, that's where the story gets serious. Now let me ask you a question, and answer it honestly. When was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? Not dumped them into a jar. Not spent them. Looked at them. Because the 1991 D Lincoln cent error is not obvious to the untrained eye. And that's why collectors pay obscene amounts for authenticated examples today. The fear here is simple. What if you already had one, and spent it on coffee? Here's where excitement takes over. The 1991 D penny is famous in elite numismatic circles for a rare minting anomaly tied to striking and die characteristics that should never have passed quality control. Coins with this specific error display features that separate them instantly from common sense when examined properly. Professional graders have confirmed examples that sold privately and at auction for amounts that rival luxury homes. And the current high-end market valuation, up to $765,000, is not speculation. It's driven by scarcity, demand, and competition among high-net-worth collectors who understand one thing very clearly: truly rare U.S. error pennies do not come back to the market once they disappear into private collections. And yes, before you ask, this is the part where most people say, "There's no way I have that." That thought right there? That's how people stay broke. Humor me for a second. If winning the lottery odds are worse than being struck by lightning, and people still buy tickets, why would you assume the odds are against you when it comes to something already sitting in American homes? Think about that. Coins don't announce their value. They wait. The Lincoln cent isn't just a coin. It's a symbol of American legacy. And collectors don't just buy metal, they buy stories. The 1991 D-era penny represents a moment when the system failed, rarity was born, and history was frozen in copper. That story is irresistible to serious buyers. That's why demand is relentless. And that's why prices continue to rise quietly while the public sleeps on it. Here's the urgent part you need to hear. The rare coin market is tightening. Top-tier error coins are being pulled off the open market and locked away. Once they're gone, they don't come back. That's not hype, that's how generational wealth is preserved. The collectors buying these pennies aren't guessing. They're positioning. And every year you wait, authentication fees rise, grading queues grow longer, and competition increases. Time is not neutral here. Time either pays you or costs you. Now let's reset your attention for a second. Imagine explaining to your family that you once had a penny worth $750,000 and you let it go because you didn't want to check. Awkward Thanksgiving, right? That's not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. What separates wealthy collectors from everyone else isn't luck. It's awareness and action. They understand that rare coins are one of the few assets you can physically hold, pass down, and sell privately without market panic. A verified 1991 D-era penny doesn't care about inflation headlines or stock market mood swings. It cares about one thing: scarcity. And scarcity is undefeated. This is why people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s are paying attention right now. They're looking at drawers, old collections, inherited rolls, and forgotten boxes with new eyes. Not because they're desperate, but because they're smart. They know that wealth doesn't always come from working harder. Sometimes it comes from recognizing what you already owe. So here's the powerful takeaway. That penny you've ignored? It might not be ordinary. That old collection you inherited? It might not be sentimental, it might be strategic. And the opportunity in front of you right now isn't about chasing millions. It's about not accidentally throwing them away. If you take nothing else from this, remember this: rare coins don't announce themselves. They wait for the right person to recognize them. And the 1991 D Lincoln penny era is one of the quietest, most underestimated wealth opportunities still hiding in plain sight.